So
Okay.
that was kind
Yeah, I
of the
think those were all the things
beta
you
model
talked about.
that we started with after we had the, kind of some of those smash and grabs at the
Oh, so this is new
stores.
then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we just got a
Sent me a
printout,
picture.
wanted to run it, make sure everyone was satisfied, and then we'll start handing
from a operational standpoint to be perfect at this point, but at least we are making progress. So,
And I apologize. Mary had met with Dave from Aetna, and I was not aware of what transpired at that meeting, so I indicated I would just do this portion and Dave would handle the.
yeah, I was, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, I was going to remember to move to him this time because he's right here. Because he's generally out there in the audience, and I always miss him. So.
Yeah, don't lean back in this chair, guys. I don't know if you've experienced this chair, but there's a lot of lean back there.
Whoever sits there, I don't know.
I know. I think I've been set up anyways. So this is the first month that we did try to do a little bit of a combined report. I think it'll be a lot easier moving forward as we kind of understand the operational kind of nuances between the reporting metrics and how Rocky Hill's pulling them and how I can help them kind of leverage what they have in their data set. So this was obviously kind of a first stab. I think it's going to be, as we go, I think this is going to become kind of, as you have said and indicated in that initial executive summary, that it'll get easier and easier to do. So I am looking forward to that, and it was actually really fun to kind of go back and forth with Mary and get different pictures and kind of see what else they're up to, and then also see some different opportunities where we can leverage both of our resources to, serve kind of a common goal. So with that, the overall responses, Aetna had 311 responses with 206 transports. Our on-time performance was 95% with an average response time of 6 minutes and 19 seconds. That brought us year-to-date up to 2,267 responses with over 1,500 transports. We did have 2 cardiac arrests last month. Neither of them were able to be resuscitated or even be attempted to be resuscitated due to the condition of the patient at the time of the call. We had 2 opiate-related encounters last month. They were not, I think I did mention last month that there's some carfentanil that was indicated in Middlesex County. I can say that those 2 incidents were not related to the carfentanil. It was just kind of, I don't want to say the word standard, but it was most likely a fentanyl-type substance. Top 5 EMS calls have remained the same for the last couple months. We just finished up a really large new hire class. Again, I feel like every new hire class lately has been huge, but we just had another one of 12 EMTs that came through. We got to do some training with LifeStar earlier this month to review some mechanical ventilation, which was really a great opportunity to kind of pick their flight crews, their flight RNs, and their flight paramedics' brains. And for those of you that are listening to this, very excited to be able to present to the RHPD dispatchers later tonight at the town council meeting. So I'll kind of leave that where it is because I don't want to spoil anything just yet. I don't want to ruin the secret or the surprise. But very excited about that. But as of right now, I stand ready for questions.
None here. Thank you, Dave.
None either. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any too, and thank you again, like I said, for moving in the right direction on the data side, and also all the great collaboration, which is starting to happen between the 2 agencies. Yes,
Just a-
please.
Just a question on the opioid, 12 for Rocky Hill for the year.
12 for the year, correct.
How does that compare to like our neighboring towns?
So I won't know necessarily to yourself.
Some of the towns. are huge.
But the other towns, right kind of in line. I think the shared Route 99, Silas Deane Highway is kind of one of, and particularly having 91, does present, opportunities for the drugs to kind of get into the area. But we do not see I would say overall, I would say it's a very low incidence. In that same vein, I actually think, I don't know if it happened today or it's happening tomorrow for our HPD and our HVA, but we did pick up our Narcan leave behind kits that are available through DEMAS, so Department of Health and Mental Health and Addiction Services. Those are free. They're offered through a grant. We were able to pick up some today. There's also some that will be distributed to RHVA and to RHPD as responders to be able to leave behind with folks if they, seen or administered Narcan to a patient. So that was pretty, it's nice to be a part of that. But I would say overall, I'm not like, the 12 I think is an okay number. Obviously we'd love to see it get lower. But as far as related to the other communities, I think it's right in line with kind of everywhere is kind of about the same until you get into an urban setting where you see it spike quite a lot.
Thank you.
And in case you're wondering, we were up 15% overall for 2023 to the year. I cannot answer the question yet of why. So
Yeah,
I say that with like, baited like, oh no, why did I just say that? But yeah, 15% across the board, all EMS calls for the town of Rocky Hill.
Yeah, and that was your hypothesis was as well, Deputy Chief, right? So I think, something to kind of keep an eye out on. And I think from town manager's perspective, also kind of an important metric there, it's like almost like an early indicator, I guess.
Yeah, like a warning call.
Yeah, it really is. But it is what it is. We just can always look at it and then prepare ourselves, right? I mean, that's if we find that is what really causing it. I mean, it's a reasonable hypothesis, I think. But moving to Chief Clerk, Police.
Good evening. I before we say the report, I'd just like to say tonight we will be honoring, or from Dave Zetna's side, honoring our dispatchers. I've mentioned this at previous meetings about their survivor and hands-on CPR. And it really is nice to be recognized from outside the agency and things that you've put together. So there will be a couple representatives from the dispatch center tonight, but recognizing that center as a whole for some of the success, and we'll let Dave fill you in on that later. And also, the council tonight will be recognizing, the mayor will be recognizing with a proclamation 2 of our officers who engaged themselves in a car fire, put themselves in jeopardy, actually sustained some injuries, and saved the life of the occupant. And happy to have them with us tonight as well. So more on that at 7 p.m. So stay tuned if you're listening from home. But on the report, you can see our numbers are, unlike the fire department and EMS, our numbers have been relatively flat. I haven't seen a huge spike or increase. So we've had, the spikes in car breaks previous months. They've flattened out. We've made some case closures that are really significant that I want to mention tonight. You might recall back April of 2023, we had the Valley View car robbery, called carjacking. Our detective division did a phenomenal job with doing search warrants, utilizing cell phone records and data and other outside intelligence to successfully get the 2 arrest warrants signed by the court, and actually those arrests have been made, so currently in the court process. Based on the sensitivity of it and the nature of the victim, we're not going to publicize the arrest. He was kind of, at the time, I think it kind of went around the national news. You may recall it went from coast to coast with the video that was there. So just for our purposes, letting you know that case has been closed, and a solid job by our detective division. And the two of note cases, we had those 3 commercial burglaries going back several months ago. Those are still active. There are some active leads there. And I'll get you an update when I have something, but he's currently, one of the detectives is committed to working with the task force, have some information on suspects. And, it's one thing to know who did it, another thing to prove who did it, but actually working on that case. Some very good news for you in regards to our hiring. Today was a very busy day. Starting at 8 a.m. this morning, we concluded the certified hiring process in the sense that it made it through the regular interviews, then our executive interviews. And I'm very happy to say that I have 5 conditional offers that went out of our office today and were accepted by 5 phenomenal candidates. One of whom comes to us with military police experience certification. We'll be going, we kind of evaluated his background, and to not do him a disservice, we're actually going to have him go through a full academy, but that military police training and some of the work he's doing now is going to benefit us even more so, but also getting him that training. So that'll be a long-term, the full academy, 20 weeks plus training, but the other 4 officers that we are vetting right now should be on our road in the next 2 months between background and full background, getting them on. And should that stay the course, we will be fully staffed at that point. So it's a very good feeling to be able to announce that tonight. Over the course of the, one thing that's not in the report that made it near just last week on Friday, we attended that. You might have seen the article in the Current. We had officers attend the career fair down at Post, and we had a booth down there looking to recruit. Being that we're almost fully staffed, and may not necessarily just making those connections for the next one, but a very successful time down there. And that is my report. I don't think there's much. I'm just very happy to tell you that the officers we've been bringing on board have completed their training. They're on the road, and we have the five coming in behind them in very short order. So I would like to think that by the end of this year, I'll be able to report to you we are fully staffed at full strength and marching ahead.
Thank you for that report. Councilor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chief. I mean, that's great news on the recruiting. So, congratulations on that. And also a tip of the cap to the detectives. I mean, working so diligently on this case. That's about a year old now, I guess. But I know it was a complicated and difficult one. But that's excellent news as well. So, Thank you for so much positive stuff in your report this week. or this
Thank you.
month.
I did forget one thing, if I can go back for 1 second. I've given you the, kind of on the same sense of those break-ins, I'd given you the pamphlet. We discussed this after the commercial burglaries back, I want to say it was like around June, and asked what we can do to help educate our business owners and talk to them. So I've given you what we think is our best stab at it with some information and reference for our business owners. And we have quite a few copies that we're going to continue, start handing these out during the day, during our day shifts and evening shifts, trying to make stops at our various, plazas and make those connections and hand them out, and also make it available in some format electronically. If we can do that, that's a little bit more complicated to kind of scan and get it into a PDF.
Yeah.
But it's a good first start, and we start seeing those in the storefronts and with the business owners very soon.
No, great job here. I think this is a great way to communicate, better than online for this purpose. Definitely, like it's in
tangible.
front of you. It's like, yeah, eventually we can distribute it online as well. Sorry.
Did you actually say better than online?
For a very specific purpose, like, right? I did say that. So I'm open. I'm an open person
Well,
to ideas.
Make a note of
It also gives us the opportunity and a reason to pop in just for out of
Exactly.
rather being called and
Thank
putting
you.
a face to the officer's name, name to the officer's face, and in the district. So it'll be a good experience for us as well.
Ray, all for all those reasons.
I got it.
But thank you, Chief. Councilor Wheeler.
I do got to compliment you on the burglary tips information here. I think it's a great idea. Whoever developed this, perfect with the UCR code as well. I mean,
Yeah,
somebody put a lot of thought into this. It's a nice
give
job.
credit to Lieutenant Morgan and Sergeant Foss-Rugen, put their heads together and came up with this pretty short order. So I thank them for their
Yeah,
effort as well.
it was short order. It was very nicely done. Thanks for them for that. Just a question, with the certified officers, I thought at one point we were going to get some more entry level. Any particular reason why you went more certified this time?
Well, so we've been, certainly back when we were starting to discuss trying to bring in a newer generation and indoctrinating them to our method. We currently have an officer in the academy, and the one I just mentioned to you, the MP experience, would make 2. When we're trying to fill the vacancies that we have, I mean, I can assure you, we are not lowering our standards. I think we had 13 or 14 certified applicants, and our goal was to really make sure that we were picking the best of the best. And if they weren't in that group, then we were moving on to an entry-level approach. But what I can tell you is that the candidates we brought in this week range from 2 to 4 years on, up to 10 to 15. It's a nice blend. I'm not giving up on the entry level within the academy group, but making sure we get our staffing back to where it needs to be. We have some folks currently who have been removed from their special assignments and are working the road. So we are sacrificing other assignments and other services right now to make sure the road is covered. We're controlling overtime, and more importantly, giving our staff a break. They've really been working hard and long hours to fill shifts that have gone vacant due to, we've had 2 folks who are out on workers' comp injuries or outside of work injuries that have taken up positions and creating, must-fill jobs, meaning you're going to work 16 hours sometimes or 12, and it's become a burden. But I can tell you that moving the folks out of their jobs temporarily, some of the services will suffer, like the accreditation component in our support services, but we will survive. They're going to keep doing their best to do both roles, but a lot of us in our department are pulling dual roles at the same time. And, so if I can ask my lieutenants to perform dual roles, unfortunately, you know how that goes. We got to keep the mission going, and sometimes that means we have to sacrifice. So I appreciate those who have made that sacrifice, but getting us back to staffing has been the number one priority I've had since the beginning. And, that full entry-level academy date is a 16-month project. And if we're not finding the quality candidates that I found in this certified position or interviews, we'd be moving on from them. But I can assure you there's some quality folks coming on board who are bringing a litany of skill sets and knowledge, and I think we're going to be a better department for it.
Good, thank you for that. Give credit to your detective division again. Thank you for all their efforts in solving a lot of these crimes and working on those smash and grabs still. Thanks for pursuing all those. One thing, I still get a lot of complaints about speeding in town recently. Just wonder if you could possibly put that speeding in your monthly stat report, your activity report. Speeding, traveling too fast, reckless driving, a separate category with infractions and warnings, just so people will be aware that there is enforcement of that way going on in our town, maybe.
Okay. I mean, we do, if the complaints have come in, I've not received any personally. If you're getting them, please ask to forward them to my attention.
Okay,
We do have a standing traffic post that complaints will come in to go to the patrol commander and down to the sergeants, and there are active assignments happening. And I certainly can add those locations to the report and something statistical to give you an idea of what kind of activity is going on, for sure. But if you're
Thank you.
receiving anything on this panel or the board or council, please just forward it to my office and we'll address it for you.
fantastic. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. We can definitely pass on the information, but just from a metric perspective, I think a lot of people, I can tell you, complain to me about New Britain Avenue, because maybe it's because I live off of that. I live off Covey, but it's like I take that road all the time, and I know people who live there. So maybe it's a biased sample, maybe because I know those people and they live on the road. But maybe on the other side of the coin, like they probably know the road the best. And I know it's a state road. I think technically, right? New Britain Avenue, is that a state road?
Correct. We enforce it, but it's a state road.
It's a state road, right? Yeah. So people say like it's like a racetrack there, like especially certain times.
Sir, I would agree with you. I mean, particularly depending on the flow of traffic, if you're outside of the regular commuting hours, like the morning and afternoon when we're clogged up everywhere, no one's getting anywhere too fast
Right.
in town. But those at late hours after dark, I can understand what you're saying. So if you're getting those complaints, just let us know, and I can tell you we'll get a post out there and make some presence known.
Okay. And one quick thing I'm going to revisit. Last time I wasn't here, and Councilor Whedon and I went back and I looked at some of the conversations, and I think Lieutenant Smith was here, and they had a conversation about the system of responding to calls outside of the 911, right? And I don't know, Chief, I don't know if you had any conversation with Lieutenant. Like, I just want to revisit that and make sure, like, we are able to get your views as well on the topic, because I think Lieutenant Smith did a good job. I think we had a very good, robust conversation as far as I can tell. But I think if there is anything from your point of view that we missed there in that discussion, or if there's anything we want to do differently from that, and I'm not suggesting we do, I'm just saying if there is anything, any possibility of a change in that system, driven by something real, if that is a possibility, I don't know if you think in that direction or not, if your thoughts are in that direction or not.
Well, I mean, the system, we're not unlike many of our police departments around us. If you did do your own polling and call, you're going to find an automated teller at about 99% of the police departments. I can tell you for sure Weathersfield and Cromwell use it. And the reason that they're in place is to ensure that the dispatchers are being able to stay on the phone for their 911 calls or their medical calls that come in, or the routine calls that maybe are a little more exigent. So in a sense, what we're trying to do is really divert the calls that they're receiving, and it's particularly during the day. There are a lot of phone calls for the animal control that can be vetted out right to the voicemail or his office when he's working. In addition, records requests. So the idea and concept is that if these are the two most primary calls we're getting during the daytime, particularly, is trying to ease up the load on our dispatchers. And there's only two of them. Sometimes there's three. And if there's any misconception, the same person who would be answering the phone without a teller is the one who's answering your 911 call. There's not another center out there that's answering 911. That is the same 2 or 3 individuals working. So the objective really is like an efficiency gain in a sense. Like if we can, reroute a call for ACO or reroute a call for records during the day, we can keep our dispatchers focusing on us on the road, focusing on the 911 calls when they come in. So that's the importance of it. And I can understand that when you call 911, you're going to get someone's answering that phone, and if they're on a routine line and a routine call that can be placed on hold, they do that. But what I don't want is someone who's actively giving CPR instructions to be answering a call for the records division in the afternoon. That would be counterproductive what we're trying to do and pulling us away from the priorities. I certainly can evaluate the order of operations of the actual sequences themselves, but that system was put in place with some great thought by The previous Lieutenant Phelps, who was here before me, or has left us, in consultation with the dispatchers to try to find what kind of calls they're getting and try to reduce the amount of traffic coming into that office to give them the ability to focus on the big stuff. The CPR calls, the officer safety incidents, monitoring the radio, hearing the hotline. They are monitoring radios constantly, and if we can alleviate them from taking 5 or 6 phone calls per shift and focusing on the major items, to me, that's worth it. But if we're finding a problem, and I've not heard any up to this point about the system, I mean, 911 exists for that. If there's an emergency, call it, we answer. But for a routine nature, I mean, if we moved up the dispatch to the second function, we can maybe vet off the animal control or records, depending on which one's getting the most. But during the day, there's a lot of calls for both those departments during the day, which do take up time. And that's where the system was really born from.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. You've thought this through, or at least like the system has been in place for a while because of a reason. I think for me at least, I think it comes down to really customer experience or taxpayer experience in this case, right? So what we don't want to be is like Delta Airline or Expedia, right? You call them and we keep getting rerouted to and you press 0 15 times and finally it goes somewhere, right? So I'm just, I would say I think you mentioned, just evaluating the system itself and how much an average call will probably take to be routed to a person. I think maybe that is a good starting point to just look at that maybe. And I mean, that's my suggestion. I'm not suggesting, I'm not prescribing anything. And just from an experience perspective, I just want it to be a good experience for people who might be calling in for, because in my view, again, this is a hypothesis, if people generally don't call the PD probably outside of 911 unless they want to talk to someone. I mean, I would think if they have a real emergency, they will just call 911, right? I mean, that's what I will do. The first thing that comes to mind is not calling PD, at least in my case. Personally speaking, again, one person. I wouldn't pick up the phone and call the PD. If I have a real, I will always think of 911 first if it's a real emergency, right? So what I'm suggesting is if somebody calls the PD, maybe they do want to talk to someone, for extended period of time for a non-emergency reason. Again, just an assumption on my part, might be completely wrong. So I just want you to see if we can make the customer experience better. And again, I'm not, if you measure how much time on average probably it takes for that call to be routed to a person, probably you will get to the right probably decision anyway, whether it's simplifying the system or changing. Again,
Yeah,
you're really in charge of this, and you're the expert. So
I don't think taking another look at it would hurt by any means. I think, but the feedback, what I'd like to get personally is I don't know if it can be measured through IT, but if they're able to see how many calls actually are routed or not, I don't know if they have that. But I can certainly look to see what John can tell me, or IT can tell us. But also, the folks that I'm going to lean on are going to be the dispatchers. They're the ones who are there answering the calls. Keeping us safe and getting the cars and ambulance and fire trucks in the right place at the right time, and the last thing that I would really want would be someone asking for the animal control officer to leave a message while we have a house fire or a big emergency, and those things matter, and it might not seem like much, but it does matter in those moments and when seconds and minutes do matter. But I understand what you're asking. I'll take a look at it, and I will get back to you after we evaluate it and see if we can, if anything, bump up the option for dispatch to be the second option so that the wait time is, we're only talking probably, off the top of my head, it's probably 15 seconds if you pick up the phone to listen to option 1, 2, and then get the 3. But if we can cut that in half and improve the experience, then I could work something out with that.
Thank you so much. And again, to emphasize, this is not a solution looking for a problem. If there is no problem, then there is no problem, right? We all kind of understand that. But just looking at it, thank you for doing that. I think that's the least we can do, and then we'll go from there, whatever the facts tell us, right? Really. So thank you. And moving on. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Anything follow up on that?
I would just
before
like
I move
to
on?
say, you've had 2 dispatchers in there for years. They always were able to answer the call and divert it. Obviously, if one was on a 911, they're not going to stop and answer the routine line. I think it is a customer service. I think if somebody calls the police department, they're calling because they need help. There's a reason, even if it's to get a copy of a report. And I think a person answering the phone is what somebody's looking for. You know, we all hate calling in places, and you got to listen to this phone tree and push all these different buttons to get somewhere. If somebody calls the police department, I think it's very important for them, and I think it doesn't hurt. Dispatcher, answer the phone. Okay, stand by, I'll transfer you to records. Okay, stand by, I'll transfer you to. We all did it before in law enforcement. I think there's a tweak in laziness or making the job easier. But in the police department, it's very important that somebody is there to listen to somebody's concern. That's my take on it, coming from the law enforcement field. And if somebody is emergency, call 911. They're going to call 911. You guys are going to answer it. If you have to let the routine line go, you might have to. But obviously, you know the priority, and your dispatchers do prioritize 911. Those are a couple of thoughts of mine. Thank you for reevaluating it and looking into it.
Sir.
Thank you, Counselor. Moving on, we are going to move to Charlie Brown from the Health District.
You didn't forget.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes.
We got you.
Okay, so right now we're definitely at the beginning of our respiratory virus season. Definitely seeing some increases in, slight increases in COVID on testing, increases in influenza-like illness. So it's very important that folks, take the proper precautions. Our vaccination clinics are starting up here in October in Rocky Hill. They're going to be on October 2nd from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and October 3rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Rocky Hill Senior and Community Center. At this particular clinics, you can actually get influenza vaccine, including the senior high dose, and COVID-19, shingles, RSV, and pneumococcal vaccines are going to be provided by a partner of ours. So very important for folks to take precautions as we go in and start to see these increases moving forward. Additionally, one other thing, since the weather's been so good, just a reminder for folks to protect against mosquito-borne diseases. We've seen, consistent West Nile virus positive mosquitoes in Wethersfield at the testing area that's closest here to Rocky Hill. So we can make the assumption that there is West Nile virus positive mosquitoes in the area. So making sure that at dusk and dawn that you're, covering up, using your proper repellent, and addressing those things as you need to. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Councilor Silo.
Troy, can you tell us a little more about the West Nile virus, how it's transmitted and, what the symptoms and concerns are associated with that?
Yep, so West Nile virus is transmitted via mosquito, and it's similar as far as the symptomatology. Really is dealing with, fever in some people, malaise, not feeling well. So neck stiffness is also one of the symptoms associated with this. So if you're starting to feel muscle weakness, tremor, convulsions, numbness, high fever, headache, definitely seek medical attention. We have not, and knock on wood, we have not had a human case in the area this year, but we have had human cases of West Nile virus, over the past, 10 years since I've been here. Nothing, serious, but it is definitely a disease that we want to pay attention to. It is a mosquito-borne disease, as I mentioned. So if you can eliminate or reduce the chances that you're being bitten by mosquitoes, you definitely help to prevent the risk associated with this particular disease.
Thank you.
Councilor Whalen.
Mr. Brown, with the COVID vaccine, Why are people getting COVID after being vaccinated or multiple vaccinations? Why are they still getting it?
Well, COVID is, once again, it's a coronavirus, and it does mutate. It does change the genetic sequence of the virus over time. And COVID actually does this a lot quicker than what we've seen with like influenza. So what the recommendations are now is that regardless of your vaccination status of what you've done in the past, they're updating the virus every year, and they've just updated it in June to address the viruses, the variants that are out there right now. So the recommendation really is, much like influenza, to get vaccinated in the fall with the most current vaccine available to help limit the spread of COVID-19. And that's for everybody 6 months and above.
So more or less just like the annual flu shot nowadays.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way that they're going. So instead of flu season, we're really talking about respiratory virus season now, because you've got influenza, you've got RSV, you've got COVID circulating. So all of these things, if they have a vaccine available for them and you fit the recommendations for it, please get vaccinated. It is the best way to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. And then the basic precautions that we can all take regardless of vaccination status, which is, stay home if you're sick, cover your cough, and make sure that, you're taking care of yourself so that you can actually fight back against these viruses.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I follow up with a question?
Please.
So Charlie, with respect to the vaccination, so there's COVID, there's flu, and there's RSV. Can people get vaccinated for all three in one visit, or is that not recommended? I mean, what's the best approach to that?
Yeah, they've said that you can get vaccinated for all three, without any major side effects as far as that's concerned. So they have said COVID and influenza for sure. RSV is not an issue as well. So, I know people sometimes want to break that up because getting 3 of those shots is a little hard to take sometimes for folks, just from the sore arm perspective. From those of us who haven't been in the military, probably haven't had that experience of multiple vaccinations all at once. But, the key here is to, make sure that you're getting the vaccinations that are recommended for you.
And is the current, the most updated version of the flu shot available as well right now? The COVID is being rolled out right now. How about the flu shot?
Oh yeah, flu shot, the most updated version is definitely out there. And we actually, the vaccination clinics that we're putting on in October, we've got pediatric, regular adult, and then the senior high dose. So, really they're targeted for, everybody at their phases of life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for the report. One quick question on the West Nile virus. I missed how you were able to infer that it's in the area, in this smaller area that we live in.
So we have testing stations. We have a couple of testing stations in our district. One of them is in Wethersfield, and it has consistently been, we've consistently seen positive mosquitoes as they collect and they test them. So, that is the closest one that we've got to Rocky Hill. The testing site is actually on Goff Road in Wethersfield, and they've had positive West Nile virus mosquitoes there since July 8th. So they do testing every week, and we've had, let's see, about 7 different testing dates that they've found positive West Nile virus mosquitoes.
And one thing on the prevention side, I think we all do, like if you're like, homeowner or otherwise, I guess, like if you even live in apartments, I'm sure like they have something going on, like a program like this. I get these flyers about, for treatment, like, bugs and mosquitoes and in the backyard and things like that. I have used them prior. I don't know how effective those are. Do you have any, like, I'm not suggesting everybody get that because there's a cost attached to it. But is there some value to a treatment like that if it can prevent anything, bigger?
Well, the biggest thing for mosquitoes that you can do is really to help prevent the breeding areas, and that's where water collects. So, making the rounds, especially after rainfall, dumping out things like trash can lids, assuring that there's not standing water in areas that will allow for breeding spaces for mosquitoes. That's one of the biggest things that homeowners and property owners can do to help eliminate and really mitigate, mosquito-borne diseases, is assuring that the breeding places are minimal in the areas that they have responsibility for.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I just have
Yes, please.
Charlie, do you know the percentage of mosquitoes that have tested positive? Is it significant?
Not the percentage. So they capture quite a lot of mosquitoes. And a lot of times, they go through and they test. The last test, I believe, they captured 50 positive mosquitoes at the Goff Road, and that last test was on September 8th. So, just in that one area to have 50 mosquitoes that tested positive really does say that is a concentration of mosquitoes that are carrying that particular virus.
Wow. Yeah. That's actually important, right? Like the volume of it, that makes sense. Thank you for that question, Ray. No other questions, I guess, on this topic? If there are none, then we don't have any old business, no new business, Mr. Town Manager. No other business, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.